Hey there! Today we're going to talk about this ink. It's by Herbin, and it says Encre Ambre, Parfumé Orange. So it's an amber ink. Unfortunately, in the writing sample, I keep calling it orange, or orange. So apparently the name of the ink is Ambre, so it's more of an amber. Sorry about that. Parfumé Orange, with a picture of an orange. It's not necessarily an annoying orange, but it's still an orange. And this ink has a smell. It's scented, a scented ink. And in all honesty, I'm not sure whether I think it smells like orange, but it has an undeniable smell, which seems to stick to the paper for a while, but I'm not sure how long exactly. I can imagine if you would put this on a card and put it in an envelope and send it off, then maybe when the recipient opens it, he will actually smell it, but I'm not sure. It's from a line of inks called Les Subtils, so the subtle inks, or the subtle ones, whatever. And there are more options. I bought this for my mother. She wanted to try that out, and so far I don't think she has, but, so might as well do an Inkcyclopedia entry on it. Encre Parfumée, scented ink. I like the bottle. I like it a lot better than the regular Herbin bottles. It's not that flat design, it's more rounded. The other lead has bottles of ink that look a little bit like this. It has a nice matte glass thing going on there, which I enjoy. Fascinating ink. Something in between yellow, orange, and brown. Herbin has a color you may be familiar with, Ambre de Birmanie, which is a little bit like it. It's a sort of gold-colored, yellowish ink. I think it's very fascinating. I think the best thing I can do is just show you what it's all about. So that's what we're going to do next. I hope this is going to be useful, and I'll see you later. Bye-bye. Okay, let's have a look at some smelly ink. I mean scented ink, of course. What we have here is Herbin Orange. And it is scented. Oh, BKB, let's start with some fine writing. Fine. Well, I can tell you, I'm actually smelling the ink. And I'm about, 10 inches away from the paper? That definitely is a smell. It's interesting. Something else that's interesting that I noticed is that the ink is fairly light. I actually have some trouble reading it at some bits. So, I was using a flex nib, just not flexed. So maybe it's not saturated enough. Here's a medium nib. Let's see what that does. Because this ink is really as new to me as it probably is to most of you. I have not used this, so I really have to watch and see how things progress. I can tell you that I am seriously smelling something. So even at this distance from the paper, I'm smelling something. I was just sniffing my nib. Yeah, there definitely is a smell coming off of that. Now I'm going to do a really wet pen, so I'm interested in how much I'll smell of this. Yep, definitely a smell. Also, I think that now we're seeing a nice color. Actually, as an ink, I like it. I think it's very nicely shaded. I would almost say this leans towards Apache Sunset. Maybe not as extremely shaded as that ink, but it's not much worse actually. Let's have a look at an metallic nib. Hey! Hey geeks! I'm an annoying orange. That only makes sense if you are familiar with the phenomenon of the annoying orange. Okay, so again, quite nice shading. I want to see a test with a really big nib. So we have 1, 2, and 3 passes to be had. 1, still 1, still 1, soon to be 2 and 3 passes. I'll come back to those, but for now, I'm not sure whether this is the color I associate with oranges, like the fruit. I think it's a bit too light for that. But maybe that's because all of our oranges are chemically enhanced and they put wax on there. Maybe this is what a true orange would look like. In any case, I think it's interesting. Let's just leave these to dry and do a bit of writing. A bit of writing with a flex nib. Oh yeah. The hills are alive with the smell of orange. Yeah, there is undeniably a peculiar smell here right now. I'm not sure whether I'd call it orange, but it's definitely smelling of something. It's not a bad smell, by the way. It's not like it's Herbin sewer or rotten sewage or something. I mean, it does actually smell fresh. Different. Very different. That's always a good term to... Just a little bit wet. I'll do one more sample here and then we'll return. Try and get some more pressure on the pen here. I really like the color of the ink. Not too sure about the smelly aspect, but I'm liking the shading I see here. I think we're ready for a second pass. Yeah, dry enough. And I'll come back to a third pass for a third pass later. But now we want to see this in a broad nib. That's a lot of nib. Ah, the smell is getting overpowering here. If if I start talking and saying stuff like, hey, who's daddy? Then you know I'm just high, right? It's just from the orange ink smell. Orange smell. Although the question is whether you could actually see the difference between me being high and me being in my normal state. I'm not an entirely normal person, I guess. Then again, I recently read that normality is nothing more than the average of all the aberrations, and I thought, that's a good one. Okay. No, too wet. Let's do a bit of fat writing with a very broad nib. And then put some water in there. E for Eric. Sadly missed. I'll leave that to dry. Do a bit of writing with a medium nib, and then we'll see how that holds up to water. Okay, let's see how we're doing here. Yep, dry. Third and final pass. Okay, so what have we got? Just a short recap. I think we get a very nicely shaded ink. I'm not sure whether it's orange. I'd say it's more of a dark, saturated yellowish orange, maybe even brownish. I mean, this looks more brown than orange to me. For some reason, I think this is a little sepia. You know, those old pictures, you know, photographs, for some reason this color evokes a feeling of that when I see that. I mean, beautiful shading, looks very well. I like the color, although for me, if this would have been a true orange, like the fruit orange, it should have been more intense. I think it's a little tame now. Nothing wrong with that, because I think it's nice, but still. Okay, so just one pass with a very broad nib, or a very wide nib, I should probably say. And we get this nice, well, brownish, yellowish color. A second pass makes it much darker, and a third pass makes it a really dark, I'd almost say a brown color. That's interesting. Now I want to see how all of this is keeping up under water stress. Let's just grab a sheet of blotting paper to really make the last bits dry. It was pretty much dry, so I'm not really cheating, I guess. And then we take some water. Oh, I'm probably going to be bombarded with smell now. Things I do for you. Oh yeah, oh that's awesome. Oh, it's a lot of smell right now. Yes, very interesting. Okay, then some regular writing. Let's see how this is working. I seem to be able to eliminate that. I'm just cleaning my paintbrush here as this stuff is drying up a bit. Let's start working on the scorecard. I'll try to keep that in view so that you can see how it dries up. Cleaning! Well, as I just told you, this is the first time I've ever used this ink. I have no clue. Then again, I don't think I have any Herbin ink that has had any problems. Probably good. I think it's not going to be an issue. But, you know, with that smell stuff going on, if you look at this converter, this has been in here for quite a few hours now. It doesn't look like it's extremely staining or anything. So I'm really not expecting any issues. If I do get any issues, I'll make sure to post a comment when the video goes up. The bleed-through. I don't know yet. I have to check that later. Color. How on earth do I describe this? Yellow, brownish. I guess that's it. Shading. Well, whether it's orange or not, shading is very good. I cannot deny that. There's a lot of shading going on there. Flow. Well, the flow, I'd say, is very good. I had no startup issues. I'd say excellent. I haven't even experienced any hard starts. The feathering. Oh, the feathering. My favorite aspect of the ink must be the feathering. You know that guy in Indiana Jones, who that Nazi officer with a sort of pig-like face and the glasses? That guy, for some reason, I think he's one of the best cast actors ever. And he always, when I start doing this strange, completely random German accent, I always have to think of him. Okay, feathering, well, we'll have to come back to that. Drying time. Well, I'd say it's good. It's not an excessively wet ink. And then we have waterproofness. Well, this part is almost gone, but this part is still there. And it's really dry now. And this part is gone, so I would say okay. But it's not an ink, it's definitely not waterproof, but it's not marketed as waterproof either. So it's probably not going to be much good in that regard. But still. Let's have a first look at bleed through here. I don't really see any, apart from this bit, but that was 3 passes with a 6mm nib, so, you know, that's not that strange. This all looks pretty good. Nice. Now we have to move on to some cheap copier paper. Copier paper. You know what? Let's use this copier paper. Okay. Okay, here we go. Fine. Yeah, with no pressure, this ink doesn't really work. You see, it's still very light. You really need some pressure. So in a fine nib, I'm not sure. I'm not sure about that. Medium nib. Missing person. Broad. This paper is more absorbent, and I do seem to get less of a smell. What kind of an R is that? Well, you know what I mean. Italic. Have to keep the script interesting, right? Oh yeah, I'm getting that smell again. There we go. I was waiting for that to happen. Then a bit of flex. Now we come to the flex writing. Oh, I nearly ruined the paper there. Railroading. Flex. What is this? Grand Central Station? What's all the railroading? Come on. Writing. Well, it's a lot of ink. I don't see a lot of flexing though. Let me get the magnifying glass. Note how dramatically I actually put that in view. There we go. Flex writing. I don't see a whole lot of feathering. I'm not sure about you, but it seems to be pretty controlled, even in these very wet bits. But of course, the one way to put that really to the test is to get a really broad nib. Oh yeah, orangey smell again. It's a very, very orangey smell here right now. Okay. Well, let's return to that. I still don't see a whole lot of feathering. Maybe a little bit with that W. You see that? But even that is not really that pronounced. I've seen a lot worse. Which is pretty impressive, actually. And with the really bold writing, there isn't a whole lot of feathering either. So that looks pretty good. Bleed proof, well, that's apparent. With the flex writing, definitely. Oh, sorry, with the flex writing, and maybe with the broad writing. So feathering seems to be okay. It was not there in the Rhodia, but I mean, you have to use a brush to paint walls to get bleed through on a Rhodia, I think. On a Rhodia, I mean on Rhodia paper. So bleed through, I would say, is okay to good, depending on the paper. Feathering, I would say, is good. I mean, I cannot say anything else. It seems to be pretty resistant to that. So, there you have it. The Inkcyclopedia entry for Herbin Orange. I hope this was useful, and I'll see you later. Bye bye.